The Nextorch Dr. K32. This is an updated version of the Dr. K3 Pro, and I will compare these a little bit later in the video, but let's first discuss the Dr. K32. This is intended as a medical pen light, retails for $54.99, and it has two different color outputs and three brightness outputs. It has a yellow 3000 Kelvin 2 lumens, and then a white 5700 Kelvin 10 lumen and 80 lumen. So 2 lumen yellow and 10 and 80 lumen white. Design of it, pretty similar to prior and other Nextorch lights. Has a plastic tail cap there. The wire pocket clip is pretty stout and nice and deep carry, and trying to get this out of your pocket because that clip is so firm, you sometimes have to work a little bit to get it out, but that is also to say it's not going to fall out of your pocket. On the other side, there is a pupil sizing chart, which admittedly I don't actually use because I don't do that many exact measurements of pupil sizing, but it's there for reference. On the tip here, there is a 3 centimeter ruler, and we do have to measure a lot of things in medicine, so having a small ruler of that size for the things we measure actually has come in useful a few times. Battery polarity is here, and a little arrow that says twist it that way to open it, so let's go ahead and do that. Powering this is a Nextorch 650 milliamp hour 10880 battery. This is kind of the equivalent of 2 AAA batteries, and you can either use this, which is rechargeable right there with a USB-C charger, or you can use 2 AAA batteries if you want. Putting this back in here, it is IPX7 rated, and admittedly, since I use this in the ER and we have to touch sometimes some unpleasant patients and bodily fluids, because of that IPX7 rating, if you needed to clean this or submerge this, you could do that to get it clean. In the head there, you can see the 2 different LEDs there, the white and the yellow. User interface on this, I like that it is very straightforward. It always comes on to that low output, and then from there it goes to the 10 lumen and the 80 lumen. I like that I always know what I'm getting when I turn this on. That yellow output, they say it's only 2 lumens, and admittedly, now that I've used this on a bunch of patients, in a well-lit room, that 2 lumens is really not bright enough for me able to see much of a pupil reaction, and I tend to have to go up to that 10 lumen output in a well-lit room. If I'm seeing someone with a migraine and the lights are down because they have light sensitivity, the 2 lumens is not bad, but again, in a well-lit room, I need to use that little brighter output. But the 10 is tolerable for a brief pupil exam. Things that come with this light: the box, the USB-A to USB-C charging cable, and the instructional pamphlet. Now, comparing the Dr. K3 Pro to the Dr. K32, you can see the Dr. K3 Pro is a little bit smaller. And I think one of the reasons of this is because the Dr. K3 Pro has a built-in 320 milliamp hour battery, whereas the Dr. K32 has a 650 milliamp hour battery. So twice the battery capacity on this for certainly not twice the length. The comparative outputs on them, according to Nextorch, they both have a 2 lumen yellow, and then the whites are 10 and 80 on the Dr. K32 and 20 and 80 on the Dr. K3 Pro. What I find in my testing is that the 2 lumen output on the K3 Pro is actually brighter, and I find that better for pupil exams in more well-lit rooms, but that the white outputs on the Dr. K32 are actually brighter. The other thing that I really like about the Dr. K32 versus the Dr. K3 Pro is that, as I mentioned with the Dr. K32, I always know what it's going to come on to. It's always going to come on to that low yellow output. Whereas the Dr. K3 Pro, it has mode memory, so if you turn it off on high and you leave it off for a while, this one, if you leave it off for a while, it always comes back onto that low yellow. This one has mode memory, so whatever you turned it off on, it's going to come back onto that. And it's a small thing, but I like knowing I'm going to see a patient. I can pull this out of my pocket. If I'm in a dark room, there I am with the low yellow. If I'm in a well-lit room, I know I can take it out of my pocket and go yellow-white for the 10 lumen output. And I like this with all of my lights, regardless of the use, but I like knowing what I'm coming down to. I don't prefer the memory because I never know where I turned it off. So another improvement for the Dr. K32. I do like the size of the Dr. K3 Pro because it is smaller, but again, having carried these both, the size difference is really not enough to make that much of a difference. So overall, I've been carrying this for a while now. I've used it on a bunch of patients. My nitpicks are that the yellow is a little bit too dim, and that's really about it. I like the user interface better. I like the carrying it. It's nice and smooth in your pocket. Goes in and out with some firmness. It's not going to fall out of there. The price is expensive, but if you are getting this as a medical pen light to use for work, that price may be a little bit less inhibitory as if you're just getting it as a casual everyday light. So check this one out. Some links down below. The Nextorch Dr. K32.